Hi, I'm Kelly, and welcome to day 3 of the Serenity Sew Along. Today we're going to focus on constructing the body of our Serenity sweater. Let's get started. Before assembling the body of our Serenity sweater, we need to do some prep work to the back. The first thing that we're going to have to do is fold back the seam allowance of our neckline and press it in place. So what you're going to do is, you see this little jog out piece right there and right there, those are our seam allowance. You're going to fold the neckline back 1/2 inch to the wrong side and then press in place. And then you're going to take the bottom hem, fold it up 1 inch and press that in place as well. Now we're not going to sew either one of these quite yet, but this does give us a crease so that we can have our fabric prepared for later steps. So we're going to unfold those right now, and we're going to take our back piece and place it right side up on our table. There we go. So there's our back. And now we're going to take our front that we've already assembled, see our front piece, and we're going to place it right sides together with our back, and we're going to match up our shoulder seams. So we're going to take our first shoulder seam, and you're going to line up this outside edge right there. And then you're going to take this seam allowance that we have, and you're going to fold it around so that it encases the front shoulder. So you're folding it right like there. I'm just going to pin that in place. And we're going to do the same thing on this other side. So just take your shoulder seam, line it up, and then take this seam allowance right there and fold it over so that it wraps around that front shoulder piece. So this is what you'll have. And this is the piece that's wrapped around. Right like that. And now we're going to use a straight stitch and sew the shoulder seam in place. So I like to use a straight stitch for this rather than my serger. I find that it creates less bulk where the neckline is on that shoulder seam. So just a 3/8 inch seam allowance and a straight stitch all the way across. See? Just like that. So I'm going to repeat that on the other side here. Okay. I like to work from the inside of the shoulder seam and go towards the outside for both sides. So I find that I get less shifting of that folded over piece when I start at that end. Okay. And see, there it is. So this is where we've folded it over and encased that front seam. So now we're going to take that back piece and fold it back and open up that seam right like that. So this is our front shoulder, and then this is the back shoulder. And this is what it will look like on the inside. It's a really nice, clean finish here. So like I said, you can use a serger, but I think that this section right in here, it just lays a lot more flat when I use a straight stitch for this part. So we have that on both sides now. And then, because we already pressed this back neckline, it just falls beautifully in place for us. So if you're using really shifty fabric, something like this, this Heat and Bond soft stretch, hem tape, there's several different brands that will keep this in place. But if you do use the hem tape on this section, don't use it in this section right next to the shoulder, because remember, you need to fold that around to the other side when you attach your shoulder. Okay, so now I'm going to use my cover stitch and just top stitch this in place. So you can use a straight stitch on your sewing machine for this. If you don't have a cover stitch, that seam does not need to stretch. The neckline is plenty large enough for us to get this on without that seam needing to stretch. So I'm just going to feed this into my machine. Okay. And this is what it will look like after we have our neckline cover stitched or top stitched down into place. So right like that. And then this is what our shoulder seam looks like. All nice and constructed. And then on the outside, nice, smooth, continuous, nice, clean construction right there. So that is how we assemble the body of our Serenity.